Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the GSMC Golf Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your host, Garrison McDaniel, and we have a great show for you guys today. Today is the 4th of July, so for everybody in America, everybody's celebrating Happy 4th of July. But that means that I am out, partying, on a little bit of a weekend vacation here. So this is a pre-recorded episode, so this isn't live. I apologize. We will be back with the golf live stream on next Tuesday to go over everything that happens at the John Deere Classic. I am excited for this tournament for the weekend. You bet that I will be watching it while I am out at a pool somewhere watching some fireworks. So I'm excited for the 4th of July. I hope everybody is enjoying their 4th of July. But as I mentioned, this is a pre-recorded episode, so if anything I say today in this episode changes over the next day, I don't imagine anything really would, but I do apologize if I say something that has changed. So, we're going to go into our segments tonight. First segment will be the course breakdown for the John Deere Classic. Our second segment of the night, will be talking about Olympics preview, as we are now a month away from the Olympics, from the Golf Olympics. A lot of things are happening there. So I will be breaking down the field, talking about the favorites, who I think is playing the best golf going into the Olympics. It is still a month away, and I will do a bigger preview when we get to the course breakdown. However, right now, we're just talking about the field. The third segment, we'll be talking about the FedEx Cup. Give a little bit of update. It's been about a couple months since I have done that, so it is very important to keep tabs on who's at the top 30, who's top 50, who's top 70, to keep looking at the tiers of the FedEx Cup and see who still needs to improve going into the later stages of it. Our fourth segment of the night, we'll be talking about the Open final qualifying for it. The fourth and final major of the year is 2 weeks away, and we finally got the field for it, so we'll be talking about that. And the fifth and final segment of the night, we'll be talking about my picks and predictions for the John Deere Classic, as always for these Thursday episodes. That's how we end them off. So, thank you all for tuning in, and as always, if you guys would like to become a bigger part of the show, help support the show in more ways than you already do just by tuning in and paying attention to it, you can use the tips and donations link at the gsmcpodcast.net. It does go a long way to support all the creators here at the GSMC Sports Network, and we do appreciate any little bit helps. So with that being said, and without further ado, we're going to get right into our first segment of the night. This is the whole breakdown from last year. Granted, there probably are a lot of changes onto the course, as these courses do change every year, but usually for these non-signature and non-majors, we can take the course from last year and apply it to this season and this year. So taking a look at this one, We have a couple of easy holes to start out the round here on hole 1 and hole 2, and I'm gonna look at Sepp Straka's winning scorecard from last season to compare with what these guys elect to do on a lot of these holes. So it looks like Sepp Straka went for 3-wood off the tee on hole 1 last season in his first round, and it seems like he did that in the first round, did that in the second round, and in the third round. So 3-wood off the tee to hit into the middle of the fairway. It is a dogleg left this first hole. Plays a little easier. You have 2 good shots. If you can't connect, it is an easy birdie opportunity to start your round. Next up is a par 5 fifth that plays less than half a stroke under par. So a lot of eagles, but even more birdies here. Very difficult to lose your round here on the 5th hole. It is a huge birdie opportunity. Sepp Straka on the 4th round last season got an eagle in his 9-under day to win the tournament. He had a double bogey on the final hole that made the scorecard look a little bit worse, but he was on pace for a 60 to finish out this tournament, one of the best rounds of the weekend. So Sepp Straka on round 4, playing almost perfect golf, ends up getting a 350-yard drive, almost lands it in the bunker that you would see. It would seem like it would be out of play. This is another dog leg. It's to the right this time instead of to the left that the first hole is. So about 350 into fairway bunkers, but as long as you don't hit the best drive of your life, you're pretty solid. And then you have about 200, 220 on to the green, and you should be able to 1 or 2 putt it for eagle/birdie. apologies. And then off next is the third hole. It is a par 3, plays a little bit over par. Fourth hardest hole on the golf course. More bogeys last year than birdies on this hole, especially with the back right pin position that we saw on the final day last year. It's going to play very difficult. A lot of 2-putts on this green, just looking for par there. Next up is a bit of an easier par 4. This one plays about 0.2 of a stroke under par, 454-yard par 4 that had 119 birdies and 30 bogeys last season. A big par hole, but if you're able to drive this over the trees on the right side, you have 340-yard drive like Seb Straka is able to do. It'll give yourself 70 yards to the pin. Very easy, basically chip shot for these guys. I'm going to look at Ludwig Oberg's scorecard as well, that he finished T4 last year in this event, and it seems like he kind of does the same idea. A 315-yard drive, that's why I switched up to Ludwig Oberg's scorecard. Shows you what more of the field would do. Ends in the middle of the fairway, and then he has 110 to the green opposed to Seb Straka's 70-yard to the green. Next up on the par 4 fifth hole, this plays dead even to par. 76 birdies, 64 bogeys, 6 double pluses last season with 304 pars. You're looking for par on this hole. You have a landing zone that's about 300 yards. You do have to take a little bit off of your drive if you want to get it into the landing zone and instead of the rough. But if you're able to drive it, I would say about 350, 360 yards, it'll land you to to the front of, you could maybe target the rough here, which will be about 70 yards in the rough. Would be a little bit more difficult. Fairways are a huge thing to hit on this golf course, so if you're able to hit fairways, you should be good here. Next is a 367-yard par 4, plays under par, a short par 4 here that these guys can really attack. Seb Straka elects to go with his 5-wood, about 260 yards here into the landing zone of the fairway. But you can really target the flag and target the green here if you're able to drive it 350 yards. Seb Straka wasn't too confident, still birdies it with a fantastic chip shot. Being able to hit fairways is important, but also being able to play well with greens in regulation will be huge in this tournament, as well as we've seen a lot of greens in regulation. As of late. Some guys really playing fantastic golf. Next up is the 13th hardest hole on the golf course, so 6th easiest hole on the golf course. Plays about 200-yard par 3. You have, basically, if you hit it to the middle of the green, wherever the flag is, you'll have a 10-foot putt for birdie. Give yourself a really good look there. Next up, 5th hardest hole on the golf course. It's a 440-yard par 4. However, you can really attack this par 4. It's a narrow fairway, so maybe if you're not too confident in your accuracy with the driver, you are going to elect to play with your 3-wood or 5-wood on this hole. However, if you are playing some good, if you are driving the ball well, you could really get it down there. Long fairway here. It's also the 5th hardest hole on the golf course. This par 4 8th plays a 0.2 of a stroke over par. Next up, par 4 9th is the hardest hole on the golf course. Plays about a 1/10 of a stroke over par here. One of the only holes that my apologies. One of the only holes that played more bogeys than birdies last year. 500-yard par 4 leaves you with a little bit of an awkward. It plays more like a par 5, but Seb Straka last year able to absolutely go out there and get this one. Gets the 3, gets a birdie on his final round. Ludwig Oberg on that par 4 9th, 310 and then 210 onto the green. Really difficult second shot here. That's what makes this one so difficult. Expect a lot of bogeys on the 9th hole here. Next up, the 10th hole. You have a par 5 that plays about 600 yards. One of the easier holes on the golf course last year. Played about the 3rd, 4th easiest hole on the course. 0.2 of a stroke under par. We saw 3 eagles last year on this hole. Seb Straka last year ending up not playing with his electing to go with his 5-wood instead of his driver. That's an interesting decision. I guess he was a little bit cautious of the rough last year. They elected to go with that 5-wood instead of driver. That makes you lay up on this hole, and if you lay up and not able to one putt, it's going to end up being a par here, especially since it's 600 yards. Next, par 4 11th is 409 yards. It is the 5th easiest hole. Apologies. It is the 5th easiest hole on the golf course, ranking 14th. It played about 200th of a stroke under par. For the whole weekend, it was the dead middle, most difficult / easiest hole at number 9. Par 3 12th, 215 yards. It is the 6th hardest hole on the golf course. One of the 6 holes or 7 holes on the course that does play over par. Next, par 4 13th, 424 yards. The 11th easiest hole on the the 8th easiest hole on the golf course. 400th of a stroke over par there for the 13th hole. If you're able to hit the fairway, it'll be an easy about 80-90 yard shot onto the green. Able to put it close to the pin, you're able to get a birdie there pretty easily. Next up, par 4 15th is the second hardest hole on the golf course. Actually, over the entire weekend, it was the 7th hardest hole on the golf course. On Sunday, it was the 2nd hardest hole on the golf course. That shows you how difficult the pin position can get on this green when it's all the way to the back. If it is one of those forward pin positions that we saw on that Friday round, you're really able to go out and get there. Go out and get this one. It is a little bit easier on the earlier days, but on the final day, expect a lot of bogeys on this one when it's in that back position. Par 3 16th plays as the 8th hardest hole on the golf course on the Sunday. Played as the 13th hardest hole on the golf course throughout the weekend. A 10th of a stroke under par. The same thing. Back pin position is a little bit more difficult for these guys. 17th hole, par 5, ranked as one of the easier holes on the entire golf course. The 2nd easiest hole on the golf course, played 4/10 of a stroke under par. You're able to go out there and drive it as far as you want, and then have a good 3/5 wood shot onto the green for a par / birdie / eagle if you're able to go out there and get it. Not too many bogeys on this hole, only 35 the entire weekend. 6 eagles, 204 birdies, more birdies than there were pars on this hole. Next up is the par 4 18th. This is the one that Seb Straka double bogeyed last year, but it doesn't matter. There is water to the left of the green, so you can't miss your second shot left. But if you're able to attack the green, you're able to really get a good score here. This did play as the hardest hole on the golf course last year on Sunday. 2nd hardest hole overall on the golf course throughout the entire weekend, playing a 10th of a stroke over par. So that'll wrap it up for our course breakdown of the John Deere Classic. When I come back, we will be talking about the Olympics, giving a preview of it, and talking about the field for the Olympics for the 2024 Paris Olympics.